I never imagined I'd be sitting here trying to piece my life back together after everything I've just found out. Honestly, it feels like my guts were ripped out, then used as a piñata for some sick joke. I was supposed to marry Emily, the woman I trusted with everything, my partner through thick and thin. We had a plan, marriage, maybe a house, a future that I thought was solid. But all that shattered faster than I could blink once I saw the damn truth. It happened during my cancer treatments. Yeah, I know, it sounds like the worst timing ever, but that's life, right? I was bald, weak, scared out of my mind most days. Emily was supposed to be my rock, my support. Instead, she turned out to be something else entirely. During that hellish period, I kept telling myself she'd be there for me. I ignored the small red flags, her sudden disappearances, her staying late at work, the way she'd flinch when I tried to hold her hand. I told myself it was just stress, just her way of coping. But the day I saw her, I swear my blood froze. I was weak, sitting in the living room, wrapped in a blanket, my head pounding from chemo, when I heard noises from the bedroom. I tried to ignore it, but then I heard her voice, soft, giggling, that familiar laugh that I'd always thought was warm and loving. That's when I saw them. Not just her and me, but her with my sister Lily. They were tangled together on my bed, lips locked, hands in places they shouldn't be. My stomach lurched and I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I couldn't believe it. Lily, my own flesh and blood, cheating on me with Emily right in my own house. I saw her hand sliding under Emily's shirt, the way Emily pressed her hips into Lily's. I wanted to scream, to storm in and tear them apart, but I just sat there, frozen, staring at the scene that shattered everything I thought I knew. My mind kept circling back to the signs I missed, the late nights, the cold shoulders, the secret calls. How could I have been so blind? When I finally managed to get up, my legs felt like jelly. I grabbed my phone and snapped a picture, just enough to make sure I had proof, but not so much that they'd notice. I needed something concrete, something I could hold over their heads. As I stood there, my palms were sweaty, my heart pounding so loudly I thought they might hear it. I knew then I couldn't stay silent. This was betrayal on a scale I never thought possible, and I had to do something about it. That night I stayed up, planning my next move. I wasn't just going to toss her out and forget. No, I wanted something more. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me, to see her realize that she wasn't just fooling around, she was destroying everything I cared about. I sat in the dark, clutching that picture, feeling the rage simmer beneath my skin. I'd been weak, vulnerable, and now I saw I'd been naive. They thought they could get away with it. They didn't know I was already plotting my revenge. And the thing is, I don't regret it. If anything, I wish I'd seen the signs sooner. Maybe I'd still be standing there, too blind to see what was happening under my nose. But now I have a plan, and I'm not backing down. They might think they're clever, playing their little game behind my back, but I'll show them what real betrayal looks like. Just wait. They're about to find out what happens when you cross someone who's already at their lowest and still standing. The next few days felt like walking through a fog. I kept replaying that moment, Lily and Emily, tangled and laughing like they were the only two people in the world. My stomach kept tightening, a sick knot that refused to loosen. Each time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the way her lips curled into that sneer I'd never seen before. I felt betrayed, furious, and oddly cold, like I was already starting to detach from the person I thought I knew. I needed a plan. Not just to kick her out, not just to throw accusations. I wanted to make damn sure they both paid for what they'd done. I stayed awake that night, pacing the small bedroom I'd considered ours, trying to come up with something clever. I didn't want a scene, not yet. I wanted control, to make them realize I'd known all along, even if I hadn't said a word. I started by going through her phone, though I knew it was risky. I had to know if there was more I'd missed. Sure enough, there were messages, flirty, intimate enough to make my stomach turn. She'd been texting Lily for weeks, maybe longer, hiding it from me like some secret pleasure. I read every word, the way she described secrets, plans, even her feelings. It was a betrayal wrapped in a digital veneer, but it was proof. Hard proof. I kept my cool, but inside I was boiling. I knew what I was going to do. I had to confront her, but not just with anger. I wanted her to understand I'd been watching, that I knew everything. That's when I started setting my trap, slowly, carefully, so they'd never suspect. I bought a small voice recorder, discreet enough to hide in my pocket, and I started recording everything she said, every plan, every lie. I knew she'd be careful, but I also knew she'd slip. My plan was simple. I'd confront her with everything, and I'd do it in a way that left her no room to deny or manipulate her way out of it. I'd catch her off guard, then let her see I was prepared. I wasn't just some fool who got played. I was a man scorned, and I'd make sure they both understood that. One evening, I brought her into the living room. She looked nervous, maybe sensing I knew something, but she played it off cool. That's when I pressed the button on the recorder and I played her voice from earlier that day. Her eyes widened, her face blanching as she realized I'd been listening all along. She stammered, trying to deny it, but I cut her off. "Fancy that," I said, voice cold enough to freeze her in place. "Didn't think I'd catch you. Seems like I've been blind all this time." Her lips trembled, but she regained her composure. "It's not what it looks like," she claimed, but her voice was shaky. "Oh, I think it's pretty damn clear," I snapped. "You and Lily sneaking around, fooling me while I was fighting for my life. That's real loyalty for you, huh?" She looked away, but I could see the guilt flickering behind her eyes. That's when I knew I'd cracked her. I'd caught her, and now I was ready to make her regret ever crossing me. I told her to pack her things. I gave her a deadline: tomorrow morning. I wanted her gone, out of my house, out of my life. I didn't say a word about Lily just yet. I wanted her to think she was safe for now. But I knew I had enough evidence to ruin her if I needed to. It was only a matter of time before she realized the game was over. As she left that night, she looked back at me with a mixture of anger and fear. I didn't say a word. I just watched her walk out the door, feeling the weight of everything I'd lost and gained in that moment. I clenched my fists and took a deep breath. This was just the beginning. They'd think they'd gotten away with it, but I had my revenge well in hand. And I'd make sure they learned what betrayal really costs. The worst was yet to come. That night I stayed awake, replaying everything, feeling a strange mix of satisfaction and emptiness. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I was more pissed off at Emily and Lily or myself for not seeing it sooner. I kept thinking about how I'd been so blind, so desperate to hold on to the life I thought I had. The chemo, the pain, the hope. I had been clinging to that fragile dream, ignoring all the warning signs. But now I felt different. I was numb, yet somehow more alive than I'd been in months. I knew I couldn't let this slip away. I had to do something to make sure they understood how badly they'd screwed me over. I needed them to feel the cold, hard truth that I'd uncovered every lie, every secret. That's when I started putting my plan into motion. First, I got a burner phone, something untraceable. I didn't want Lily or Emily knowing I was watching them more than I already did. I wanted to be invisible, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment. I still had the recordings, the photos, and now I had a plan to use them. Next, I started working on my proof of betrayal. I knew Emily was clever, but I also knew she was lazy about covering her tracks. I started by planting a few more subtle pieces of evidence, little things that would make her panic if I ever decided to expose her. Something as simple as a fake message from Lily implying secret plans, or a note I could leave behind that looked like a confession. I wasn't planning to do it yet. I just wanted options, just in case. My main goal was to make her think I was already one step ahead. I wanted her to feel hunted. That's when I remembered Lily's recent online activity. I knew she liked to share her photos and messages, so I kept an eye on her social media. It wasn't long before I found an opportunity. She posted a picture of her with Emily, both of them smiling but with a strange caption that oozed guilt. "Secrets we keep just for us." I saved that image and kept it as a backup, just in case. Meanwhile, I kept my cool with Emily. I sent her a message, just one, telling her I knew everything and that I was watching. I told her I wanted her out of my house and my life for good. I needed her to see I wasn't just some weak guy who'd crumble. I was already planning to make her pay in ways she'd never expect. She responded with a string of apologies, but I ignored her. I wanted her to stew in her own guilt. The day came when I knew I had everything I needed, enough evidence, enough leverage. I stayed silent, waiting patiently. I knew Emily would try to contact me to beg or plead. I was ready for it. I wanted her to think I was fragile, that I'd just quietly accept her betrayal. But I was. I'd been preparing for this moment for days. That evening I sat in the dark, the evidence on my phone, the recorder ready. I was calm, calmer than I'd felt in weeks. When she finally showed up at my door, tears streaming down her face, I knew I had her exactly where I wanted. I didn't speak right away. I let her ramble, let her plead her case. But when she started to confess, I pressed the button on my recorder. Her words, her voice cracking with guilt, filled the room. I caught every lie, every excuse she tried to spin. The proof was staring her in the face, and her face twisted. In horror, when I played back everything I had recorded, that was the moment she realized I wasn't bluffing. I had her trapped, cornered, with no way out. I told her to leave, to never come back. I handed her the keys to her apartment and watched her stumble onto the street, her shoulders hunched from shame. She thought she was free, that I'd just let her walk away, but I had other plans. I was just getting started. As she disappeared into the night, I felt a strange sense of relief. Maybe it wasn't pure justice, but it was enough to make her regret everything. I knew she'd try to come back to fix what she broke, but I'd be ready. I'd made my move. Now I just had to sit back and wait. Let her sweat. Let her wonder what I'd do next. And trust me, she'd be wishing she'd never crossed me. The aftermath hit me harder than I expected. That night I sat alone in the silence of my apartment, the only sound the faint hum of the city outside. My phone buzzed constantly with messages I didn't want to see. Texts from Emily begging for a second. Chants from Lily trying to explain everything away. But I didn't respond. I couldn't, not yet. I needed to let the dust settle to see what kind of fallout my actions would spark. I also knew I had to prepare for what was coming. Emily might have left, but she wasn't going to disappear quietly. No, I figured she'd try to come back with some sob story, maybe even lie her way out of it. That's why I kept the recordings. I wasn't going to give her that chance. I wanted her to know I was always watching, always listening. Over the next few days, I kept my phone closed, watching her social media. Sure enough, she started posting cryptic quotes about betrayal and finding herself. It was obvious she was panicking, trying to save face. I also checked Lily's profiles. She deleted the photos, but I had already downloaded everything. I knew she was trying to cover her tracks, but I had what I needed. Meanwhile, I started figuring out my next move. I couldn't just cut her loose and walk away. That wouldn't be enough. No, I wanted her to feel the full weight of what she'd done. I wanted her to understand that she'd burned her bridges completely. I also knew I needed to do it in a way that left no room for her to deny or manipulate. This wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about making her see what it looks like when someone crosses a line. One afternoon, I went to a nearby cafe, ordered a coffee, and pulled out the fake note I'd prepared. It was convincing enough, something that looked like a genuine apology, but with enough subtle hints that she'd know I was serious. I left it on her doorstep with her name on it, just enough to make her think I was giving her a last chance. I didn't sign it. I didn't need to. That night I received a message from her. She was frantic, begging me to meet to talk. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I sat on my couch, feeling the cold sting of satisfaction. I'd finally taken control. I'd made her sweat, made her think I still cared, but I knew better. She was done, just like Lily. I decided to be cruel just a little. I called her, hearing her desperate voice on line. "You're not getting away with this," I said plainly, voice icy but measured. "You think you can slip back into my life after what you've done? Think again. You've burned every bridge. I've got everything I need, proof, recordings, pictures. If you come near me again, I'll ruin you. Do you understand?" She was crying now, begging for another chance, promising she'd fix everything. But I didn't buy it. I hung up, knowing I'd already sealed her fate. There was no going back. I'd made sure of that. The final step was to cut off all contact. I packed her belongings into a box, left it outside her apartment with a note that simply said, "Goodbye, don't come back." I handed over the keys to the landlord, changed my locks, and made sure she had no way to get back into my life. I wanted her to see that I was serious. No more second chances, no more forgiveness. That night, as I sat on my balcony with a glass of whiskey, I finally felt a small spark of peace. It wasn't revenge that gave me relief. No, it was the clarity of knowing I'd taken control back. I've been betrayed at my lowest point, but I refused to be broken. Instead, I turned that pain into a weapon. Looking back, I realize how close I was to losing everything, my health, my trust, my future. But now I see that sometimes the cruelest lessons are the ones that teach you how to stand your ground. And I learned that the hard way. The people who betray you don't deserve second chances. They deserve to watch you rebuild without them. That's the real revenge. The days turned into weeks, and I kept a cautious distance from everyone I used to trust. The silence in my apartment was deafening, but it was also oddly peaceful. No more lies, no more sneaky messages, no more pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. I knew Emily and Lily were trying to crawl back into their lives, maybe hoping I'd cave. But I'd made my stance clear. I was done. Finished. Whatever shred of loyalty I had left was gone. I could feel the weight of it all pressing down on me, but somehow I also felt a strange sense of relief. I'd taken what was mine, back piece by piece, and for the first time in a long while I felt like I was finally in control. Still, I knew this wasn't the end. Not yet. One evening I sat at my kitchen table going over everything. I'd kept meticulous notes, recordings, even saved her last desperate messages. I wasn't planning to keep them hidden forever, but for now I wanted to be sure I had all my bases covered. That's when I realized I needed a final step to really close this chapter, a clean break, a definitive ending. I decided to visit a lawyer. I needed to understand my options now that she was gone. I explained everything, handed over the evidence, and asked what I could do legally if she tried to come back or cause trouble. The lawyer listened carefully, then nodded. You're within your rights to file for a restraining order if she contacts you again. It's a clear message. Stay away. That was the plan. I wanted her to know I was serious. No more games, no more threats. I wasn't just cutting her off emotionally. I was sealing the door, locking it tight. I already felt the burden lifting from my shoulders, like I'd finally put an end to the chaos she brought into my life. The final act was simple but effective. I went to the court and filed the paperwork. It was a straightforward process, but it felt good to take that concrete step. I handed over the papers, walked out, and knew I'd done everything I could to protect myself from her chaos. The court date was set, and I was ready. That night I sat in my living room for a long time, staring at the empty space where she used to be. No more lies, no more betrayal, just silence now. I lit a cigarette, took a deep breath, and finally allowed myself to feel some of what I'd been suppressing, the anger, the disappointment, the relief. It hit me hard, but I let it wash over me. I'd survived, and I'd won. In the quiet, I realized something important. The pain of betrayal teaches you resilience. It forces you to look inward to find strength you never knew you had. I'd been broken, yes, by cancer, by her lies, but I refused to let her steal my future. Moving forward, I knew I had to focus on myself, rebuild what I'd lost, and remember that loyalty isn't something you can force. It's something people choose to give, and when they betray that trust, the only choice left is to walk away stronger, wiser, and ready to start over. Now I sit here, typing this out, wondering if anyone else has gone through something similar. Because honestly, it's a bitter pill, but it's also the kind of lesson that sticks with you. Trust is fragile. Betrayal is sharp. But in the end, taking back your control is the sweetest revenge of all. And no one can take that away from you, not even the people who once meant everything to you. Now, looking back, I realize that going through this kind of betrayal changes you, whether you want it to or not. I've lost a lot, sure. My trust, my sense of security, even pieces of myself I thought were unbreakable. But I've also gained something else: clarity. Clarity that betrayal isn't about just breaking your heart. It's about revealing who you really are. And in my case, it showed me I'm capable of surviving the worst and still coming out stronger. I've learned to trust myself again, to listen closely to the red flags I'd ignored before. I don't let people get close easily anymore, and that's okay. I don't need the chaos, the lies, or the false intimacy of people who only want to use me. I've become more cautious, yes, but also more aware. That awareness will save me the heartbreak I once thought was inevitable. Most importantly, I've come to understand that revenge isn't about revenge at all. It's about reclaiming your power. It's about turning pain into a lesson, betrayal into a boundary. I handed over the keys, filed the paperwork, and made sure she understood she had no place in my future. That was my act of defiance, my way of saying, "You don't get to destroy me, not anymore." In the end, I went to court, signed the restraining order, and watched her name get sealed away from my life. The moment I handed over the papers, I felt a strange mixture of relief and resolve. I knew she'd try to reach out, to manipulate or spin her story, but I also knew I'd be ready. I didn't need her apologies or her lies anymore. I'd already taken back what was mine, and here I am days later finally feeling like I can breathe again. The house is quiet, the shadows are fewer, and I sleep easier at night. I've learned that betrayal will test you, push you to your limits, but it also has the power to teach you what you're truly made of. I refuse to let her, or anyone else, define my future by their lies. Instead, I choose to build it myself, stronger, wiser, and unbreakable. So if you're out there, hurt and confused, just know this: betrayal hurts. It's supposed to. But it also shows you who's really worth your trust. And when you're ready, really ready, you'll find the strength to walk away, to start over, and to reclaim your peace. Because no one has the right to steal that from you, not even the ones who once said they loved you. Trust that in your own resilience. That's how you win.